Hey everyone, welcome back to the program. Today I am counting down my top 10 albums of 2021, and we're going to start with number 10, the debut album by Genesis Owusu titled Smiling with No Teeth. Oh my gosh, this guy is such a talent for as young as he is to be not only a very talented rapper, but also a singer and just song maker. I never knew what to expect from track to track on this album. There is just so much variety in the terms of the styles of music that he crosses and brings together and mixes up in his own unique style. It never fails to keep my interest the whole time I'm listening to this album. There is just so much to unpack each time you listen to it. I just absolutely fell in love with this the first time I heard it. My favorite song on here is Waitin' on Ya. It's got a funky, soulful vibe about it, and it comes at the right moment in this record. At number 9, I have Talk Memory by Bad Bad Not Good. This is their 5th album, and it's also their first album in 5 years, which is pretty crazy. I didn't realize how long ago 4 came out, and this is a bit of a departure, not only because they lost one of their founding members, but also with 4 you had a lot more vocals forward, you know what I mean? There was a lot of guest musicians on that, and therefore I was a little put off when I first heard this record. I guess I was expecting something different. But after the second time I heard it, it really clicked and it just became enthralling to me. Like now every time I hear it, I hear something new and it just puts me in this really cool meditative state. And wow, I am so very impressed with this and I absolutely loved it. Coming in at number 8, I have Sweet Trip with their album A Tiny House in Secret Speeches Polar Equals. And this is one of those bands where I discovered them this year. I think someone on a live stream recommended them. I think it was their first album. And I checked that out. And then this one just recently popped up on my radar. And I was like, wait a minute, they have a new album this year? Checked it out and I immediately fell in love with it. It is, I don't even know how to describe it. It is incredibly whimsical with just these tiny little touches of glitchiness that I love that stuff. I love when things are on the verge of falling apart musically or it's like barely holding together. I love that feeling. And this has it, but it's sparingly. It's not all over the place. It is, like I already said, it's very whimsical. It is dream-like, both in the sense that it's lighter than air kind of a feeling, but also sort of like surreal, how dreams can be surreal. It is very surrealistic, and I love that. Moving on to number 7, I have Little Simz with her 4th album, Sometimes I Might Be Introvert. Holy cow, this album is an odyssey. I love the overall theming of this album. It really is an expression of who she is, and conceptually it's all about all these crazy thoughts and ideas she has, and she doesn't really know how to express them, and somehow they all ended up in this beautiful album that, again, just like Genesis Owusu's album, I never knew what was going to come next in terms of song style, song structure, from jazz to neo-soul, to even classical style music with voiceover. It is really, I look at it as a concept album. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it really does feel like stepping into Little Simz's mind for an hour and just hanging out and just enjoying all this creativity. At number 6, I have Paranewal's 2nd album, To See the Next Part of the Dream. This is beautiful. It is haunting. It is, in a nutshell, shoegaze, but he does it in this way, that just scratches that itch. You know what I mean? It is hypnotic. I don't know how else to say it. These guitars sound so good. The drums sound good, and the vocals are kind of low in the mix. And even if they weren't in Korean, I don't know how much I would really understand them, but it doesn't matter because it's like creating this vibe, this feeling, and that's what I really sink my teeth into. You know what I mean? It is just so very good. Coming in at the number 5 spot, I have Valentine by Snail Mail. I really enjoyed Lindsey Jordan's first album, And this one, again, sort of refines that sound. Definitely an ode to 90s alternative rock, which I am a sucker for, I will admit. But her style is refreshing. It's also incredibly personal. And there is a sense of longing, or at least there's a little bit of a melancholy tinge to this, which I also really love. And I just love the sound of it, the groove of it, the way it's very guitar forward or guitar driven. I love that. Moving on to number 4, I have Duran Jones and the Indications with their third album, Private Space. I can't get over the grooves on this album. I love it so much that obviously I bought it on vinyl. Which sounds so hipster of me. But no, I did, this was one of those albums I fell in love with. The first song, the first single I heard on the radio actually, With You, and I was like, who is this band? I gotta check them out. And then as soon as I heard the album, that became my least favorite song on here, funny enough. This whole record is so very good. It is an ode to 70s soul, as if you couldn't tell by the cover there. It is just, it's impeccably done. It makes you feel classy. I can't get over this record, man. If you haven't heard it, please, please, please do yourself a favor and listen to it, because it will make you feel good, I guarantee it. In the number 3 spot, I have Benny Sings with Beat Tape 2. This was another artist I discovered in 2021. I think this came from Spotify Recommends or something like that. And this is actually his second album out in 2021. His first, Music, I enjoyed, but this, I really, really dug it. It's just the blend of his music with a little bit of hip hop and some guest vocals. It really seals the deal for me, just a lot of variety. But even on his own, I still really enjoyed him, and I encourage you to check out some of his previous releases. He is on Stone's Throw, at least his last couple of releases, and I was surprised I hadn't heard of him earlier, because Stone's Throw, I'm sure you've heard me say this, but I love pretty much everything they put out. Peanut Butter Wolf, he's got incredible taste, and so it should come to no surprise that I absolutely adore Benny Sings. But yeah, Beat Tape 2, so very good. Coming in at number 2, I have Small Black with their 4th album, Cheap Dreams. So I'm not too sure, but I might have heard of Small Black before 2021, but the reason they came onto my radar is because this album was released through 100% Electronica, and that is a label I absolutely adore. George Clanton heads it, and I believe he has a large influence on what gets put on there. And his taste very much aligns with my taste. So I pretty much love everything that he puts out, and this was no exception. The second I heard it, I fell in love because of all the synths. It is so very good. It is the kind of music I live for. And the vocals on here are fantastic, and there's a sense of yearning, sense of longing about it, which also strikes a nerve with me, scratches that itch, if you will. There's a bit of glitchiness too, almost like a VHS tape with the audio, how sometimes it can like dip in pitch, like they have these little nuances throughout. I keep a running order of albums throughout the year as I listen, because otherwise I forget what came out in January, you know what I mean? So this was one of those albums that was high on my list early on and just stayed there. I kept coming back to it, and it like some of the previous albums I mentioned, I kept getting more out of it every time I listened to it. And coming in at number 1, I have OK Human by Weezer. So this is their 14th album, the first of 2 they released in 2021, and they set the bar high. It actually made me not enjoy Van Weezer as much because this album was so good. And because of, everything that was going on in the world, this album kind of came out of that, and it has this sort of, I wouldn't say impromptu feeling about it, but it definitely goes left when Weezer so often goes right. You know what I mean? Like, here we have a Weezer album without electric guitars. There's no distorted guitars on here. It's full of strings. Oh my gosh, these songs are so beautiful. It was a breath of fresh air. It really hit 2021 off running for me in terms of music. Like, I just was not expecting this. I was not expecting to enjoy it that much, and I am a sucker for Weezer. They will forever be one of my favorite bands because of when the Blue Album came out, when Pinkerton came out. I was at a very impressionable age, and I can never get away from that, and so I always keep coming back to Weezer. And, you know, I will love them in the good times and in the bad times, but this is one of the greatest times for Weezer. And every time I listen to this album, I get chills. Even now, I'll put it on and it takes me places emotionally. And I can't say a lot of albums did that for me in 2021, and that's why this ranks in my #1 spot. I mean, I really debated putting this at #1 because, you know, because it's Weezer and because, I don't know, it probably isn't the best album of 2021 for most people, but for me, it really was. It really struck a nerve. It struck a chord with me. Something about it was so relatable, because I feel like with Rivers and his lyrics, a lot of times he writes for what's commercial, but this just really felt like he was writing from his heart and where he was in the moment. And it never came across as disingenuous or pandering. It just felt really honest, and in some cases raw. And I couldn't get enough of this. And it's definitely, you know, in my top 5 Weezer albums now, for sure. All right, everyone, that will do it for today. Be sure to let me know your own personal top 10 of 2021. I'd love to read those because I'm always looking for new suggestions. Until then, thank you all so very much for watching and for your support over 2021. But I especially want to thank my members over on Patreon who really helped to keep this channel going this year. All right, everybody, I'm your Vinyl Geek, and I'll catch you on the flip side.